Hi, my name is Brooke Marie Ennius. I'm so happy that you decided to tune in to this video in particular because we're talking about the life of a homeschooling mom. And today I have with me Trisha Boris, who is here out of the Orlando area and is so phenomenal. I absolutely adore her. She is a homeschooling mom as well. She's actually homeschooled. This is her fourth baby. Well, he's not a baby anymore.
He's
elementary.
Eight.
He's 8. But she has 2 who are in college now, 1 in high school and 1 in elementary. But she's completed the homeschooling journey, and I wanted Trisha on today because I wanted to be able to talk with her very candidly, very conversationally, just about her experience so that we can inspire you as well as give you some wisdom on your journey. If you're thinking about homeschooling and you have no idea where to start, I think that you'll be inspired today and you'll get some good information. And then finally, we want to talk to you as the mom, as the woman, about discovering more of you. Because oftentimes we can get caught up caring for everybody else, yes, in the world of tasks. Yes, and even if you're not a homeschooling mom, you know how it is to be a mom, going back and forth, making sure this person is there. And so oftentimes we're burned out, okay? So we want to talk very honestly and, again, very transparently about what that experience looks like, and then how we can just give principles.
Yep, that sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Glad to be here.
So awesome. Okay, so are you guys ready? We're ready. Everybody ready? Periscope,
Ready.
Facebook, and then now you live, which will be on our YouTube channel. So Miss Trisha, can you tell me just a little bit about your experience with homeschooling? Why did you get started in the first place?
I will be glad to. And just so you know, everybody I meet has a different reason for starting homeschooling. There's just no cookie cutter box for reasons that people start. We actually started after our oldest child finished kindergarten, and we had just adopted our daughter from Vietnam, and she was already 10 months old, and both my older boys would have been going off to school. And we just wanted everybody home to get to know their new sister and get to, and I figured it's kindergarten, first grade. I can't mess it up.
Right.
I don't think. So we started that way. We did not plan on doing it forever, but now I'm going to start this fall my 17th year of homeschooling. And we never stopped. It just changed our lifestyle. It changed our family, all for the better. And we just love the benefits of it, even with the challenges that come with it.
Yeah. And so I'm a homeschooling mom as well. We have 2 boys. Their ages 8 and 6. And I honestly, Trisha, never thought in a million years that I would be homeschooling. In fact, I was actually thinking in my head that I was going to go hard in business. I was so ambitious right out of college. I'm like, I'm just going to go and change the world. And God had other plans for me.
Different plans.
Ended up getting married and having 2 little boys. And right when we were thinking about going or enrolling our oldest one into kindergarten, everything shifted. I talked to several moms just about homeschooling, about private school, public school, Montessori. And I was like, what in the world am I supposed to do? So many options.
A lot of choices. Yeah, it's overwhelming.
It is.
And even once you choose homeschooling, choices are overwhelming.
Of
how to do it.
Right.
And do you sign up under your county? Do you enroll in an umbrella school? And these are probably all terms that if you're not homeschooling, you're wondering what they even are.
Right.
What curriculum do you use?
Right.
And so it's overwhelming. The choice is just being a parent and trying to choose what's best for your family, for your children. Yeah.
So let's back up just a little bit then, because
absolutely.
I think that when we were talking off air, you mentioned something that I thought was so pivotal. And this is a point number 1. And if you could just type this for me, ladies, if you could hashtag it for me, that'd be awesome. But let's just talk about vision. So and so before we even talk about the curriculum and what to do, let's just talk about vision. Why is it, or how did you all, number 1, why is it important to have vision as a family?
So you really want to have a vision, a goal. What do you want your family to be like? What do you want the relationships to be like? What experiences do you want to have with your children? What character do you want to instill in your children? Those are all visions that keep you going. And when times get challenging and hard. And so as parents, it is important that we actually take time out and just think about those things and kind of wrestle through those issues about what it is we want our family to look like and why those are our goals and those are our, what we want to instill in our children.
Sure, because I think oftentimes what happens is we end up getting caught in the midst of responsibilities and the tasks that we don't focus on the long term. Right. We don't see the man that boy will become or the woman the girl will become. We just kind of stay right where we are. Can you just talk to
you kind of, if you're not careful, then life, you just kind of roll along with it.
Right.
And you don't get to drive it, basically.
Good
And
point.
I'm not saying drive it without, we pray a lot about our decisions. We truly believe God leads us. But a lot of times, even Christians, strong Christians, life just literally rolls along, and they roll along with it without having taken the time to figure out how they're going to drive their life. And even if you do everything right, which we're not going to do, you still don't have 100% influence over your children.
Right.
You only have so much, you know, and you can pray, and you know, I've come to the point with my oldest at one point where there was nothing left. I just had to pray because we were going to wreck each other because we clashed about 6th, 7th grade for him. But at the same time, I wanted him to discover who he was. I knew he was at that point where he had to pull away from me.
Sure.
And it's understanding those kind of things, that his anger or frustration wasn't necessarily toward me. It was just part of life, part of growing up. And so it was good for me to understand that and not hold it against him. And just, I cried a little because, he hurt he's pulling away, it hurts a little. But knowing that's what he needed to do and letting that happen. But there's so much out there that we just need to take time to understand about adolescence, about growing up, about people in general and how they tick. And
So for moms who may be at different stages, so we have some moms who may be logged in who have newborns. They're just kind of new at everything, figuring it out. Again, can be a little overwhelmed or even feel inadequate, about moving forward. And of course, it'll come to the time where now their kids are elementary school age, and that's a different stage. And then you talked about even tweens, right? And then adolescence, and then young adulthood. So the journey of life looks different in the different seasons of life. And as a mom, how was that for you? Were you able to identify what to do next? Or who was kind of like that
mentor,
that woman who reached back?
Sometimes you don't, but it is helpful to have people in your life that have been there before.
Sure.
You've watched their family, even if you're not really close to them sometimes. You can just watch their family from a distance or watch them from a distance and see, how they react in situations, how they discipline their children, and just learn from them. And so, I think God has placed people in my life that have fulfilled that role.
Awesome.
To just kind of help me see, I want a family like that. I want to work harder, with that.
Yeah. And we call that purpose partners around here.
Okay.
So whenever somebody is they've been literally sent to your life, and I feel that they literally help you to understand a little bit more about where you are. They give you wisdom, and it can be just this one-time encounter, but it's exactly what you needed in that moment, to help you to get over the hump or to give you wisdom on the journey,
give you a clearer vision, whatever it is that you need.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Purpose partners?
Purpose partners is what we call them.
I like that.
And so I remember calling you one day, and so this is my confession. I was overwhelmed. And I
remember that phone call.
I called Trisha and I said, Trisha, I'm in a valley of decision concerning quite a few things, and I need to figure it out. Can you please help me? And you were so awesome in reassuring me that it's okay.
It's okay. I think I told you just focus on the basics. Yep. You don't have to do everything. Right. You don't have to, just focus on the basics.
Right.
And, it was mainly about homeschooling, but Brooke's busy. And she works and she's homeschooling, and so for her to balance everything and feel like you're giving enough.
Right.
And that's something else as homeschool moms. We can beat ourselves up over feeling like we're not giving enough, and we feel the pressure of the output of our children is all on us. And so I think one time I finally realized, I don't know if it was a book I read or a purpose partner that spoke into my life, but the idea that my children are not like a craft to be made, you know what I mean? But they're a person to nurture. So it's not the end product. I mean, their end product isn't done at 18. When you think back to being 18,
that is so
your
true.
End product wasn't done. Let's hope nobody's done,
Right.
So I think realizing that when they acted up in public or different things like that, just not taking it so personally that it's reflect on all my parenting is now, I'm terrible, I'm horrible, and we can get in that mindset.
Right.
And so I just remember someone speaking to me, whether it was through a book or a person, about your kids are not something for you to just finish, but
that's
it's
awesome.
It's a person to nurture and that you've been given to take care of for this time period.
Oh, that's so good. Can somebody please hashtag that for me? That these babies are not necessarily a project, right?
To finish, right?
To finish. They are already, honestly, God has already divinely knit them together. And it is our job as moms and as parents to help to draw that out.
Absolutely.
There's a quote by Michelangelo, and it says, "I saw an angel in the marble, and I carved until I set him free."
Yeah, perfect,
how incredible is that?
Perfect analogy for homeschooling and parenting in general.
Sure. Yeah.
That this man or this woman, like you said earlier, is already in your child, and your job is to give them the best that you can to nurture that and bring that out. Okay. Help them discover their strengths and their weaknesses even, and their passions, and help them to have a vision for the future. Yeah, awesome. That's part of our job.
Yes.
So,
can you talk to us a little bit about some of the ways in which you cultivated your kids? So every child is different. Every child has a different way of learning. They have a different way of understanding, and it's because of their purpose. And all of us are different.
Absolutely.
And so were there certain things that you were strategic about doing? Yes. Can you talk a little bit about that?
One of the things we did, we all took the Strengths Finders test. I don't know if you've heard of that.
But so an assessment.
It's an assessment. There's books out there on finding your strengths and not necessarily your passions.
Right.
Like, one has a passion for soccer. That has nothing to do with his strengths. And once we did it for all the older ones in our family. I think if you're a little bit younger, you take a shorter version of the test and you only get your top 3 strengths.
Sure.
We each did our top 5 strengths, and it was interesting. It was good for our marriage too. Like, we discovered my husband was a maximizer, and so that meant he would take something, like we did a lot of vacation Bible school sets for church, and he would take something that I would say is good enough, and he would make it wow. He would build the 10-foot volcano and put the fog machine in it.
Sure.
Because one of his strengths is being a maximizer. That's not one of my strengths.
Sure.
So, discovering that about your kids, like one of our kids had futuristic. I don't even know what that means, And so, you can read a little about it and see. Most of my kids all had competition. I do not have competition at all. It's probably way at the, bottom. But it was interesting to watch that and just to see. And we put them on the fridge. They're still on the fridge to this day.
Wow.
So that we can understand each other and the differences and how we're made and
appreciate the differences.
And appreciate it. We think we want to raise people just like us.
Right.
You can't.
Sure.
They're not you. So so you need to understand the differences and appreciate it, rejoice in it. And
that's beautiful.
And things even like going to the grocery with your kids and, they remember something that you need at home and saying, I am so glad you came with me to the grocery store because I would have forgot that if you weren't. I am so glad you're part of this family because of this.
The reaffirmation.
And just absolutely, just constantly doing that. And everybody took piano for a little while. Some of them only for a couple years because there was no, it's good to learn.
Sure.
Everybody should learn a little music. I do believe totally. One of them took it on, it was her thing and, or one of her things. So, we did 4-H for a little while. We did, soccer ended up being, a couple of their passions.
Sure.
One of them for sure, he ended up playing in college. So, just kind of exposing them to different things and to different people, meeting missionaries or, there was an older gentleman from our church who I'm like, would you mind taking them fishing? We don't fish. It'd just be fun for a little 6 and 4-year-old to go fishing. And he took them fishing, bought them moon pies and Coke for lunch. Like, okay.
Right.
But just
the experience.
It's just putting people in their lives and introducing them intentionally.
Because if we don't do that intentionally, we all thrive on relationships,
right? We need them.
If we're not cautious and really strategic in partnering our children with purpose partners,
right? Absolutely.
Then eventually they're going to choose those who may not have their best interest at heart, and then we start seeing the behaviors. I believe. And so I kind of want to back up a little bit. That was one assessment called Strengths Finder.
Right.
Another one I know of is the 5 love languages.
Absolutely. Love it.
They have it for kids, and so that you can literally sit down and you can assess your child. Your child is talking to you and you're talking to your child and without saying a word, whatever their passions are. And for me personally, I believe that as a parent, again, it's our job to help to cultivate and to draw out that purpose, because God has trusted us with them for this time and that season. You talked about, you did this, because we only have them for a short span of time. Mm-hmm. And I'm learning that it really does go fast.
It does go fast. But the 5 love languages, that's another thing where you can almost read the book and you can almost pick out the love languages of each other without any kind of assessment.
Sure.
The younger they are, the harder it might be. But just the idea that some of us show and give love in certain ways better or more readily than in other ways. I think we need them all.
Right.
But they have 5 love languages for teenagers. And I remember thinking once, why do I need to read the one for teenagers? It's the same love languages. But as I was reading it, one thing that struck me was, let's say one of my sons is physical touch, and he loved to have his back tickled when he went to bed. And, as he got older,
it changed.
His love language didn't change, but the way he would accept it from me changed because he's now a teenager, and rubbing his back And the book explained it as it kind of reminded him of being the kid, and here he is trying to grow up to be a man. And now at 20-something, he's probably okay with me tickling his back. But during those teen years, it was
different.
So you had to find a different way. And I thought, if that was the only thing I got out of the teenager love language book, then it was worth it. So
that's awesome.
Yes.
So let's talk then about homeschooling.
Okay.
And for those who are in homeschooling now, again, setting up the day can sometimes, or just going through the day. Of course, we're talking about the life of a homeschooling mom, but can we just break it down for how a day? And no day is the same.
No day
for
is
us
the same.
In particular, we have a skeleton that works well, but no day is the same.
And for some people, they have a more scheduled,
their days very regimented.
But it's still, you can't. There's so many unpredictables when you're at home with your kids. It's, and I remember when we started homeschooling, we had the whole dining room set up, and we had Pledge of Allegiance in the morning, and we did, I'm serious. And it was very regimented. I had the schedule on the wall, and, it was pretty scheduled, and it worked for a year or two, if even, I'm not sure. But as years go by, and even a decade goes by, we're a lot more unscheduled. The work still gets done, but I figured out how to focus on what needs to be done.
Sure.
And we find, like before I came here today, our youngest, Nolan, and I, we got history done. He did chapter book reading, and after every chapter he'd come and I'd quiz him and let him read the next one. And so while I'm doing something else at the same time, he was able to do that. And then, so you kind of
figure out what works best for
you do, and try different approaches. I mean, you can't look at somebody and say, I'm going to copy that one.
Right.
So try it.
Right.
And then if it's not working, revamp it.
And so I want to kind of draw a distinction here. There's so many different types of homeschooling moms, and so many different ways in which to homeschool, so many different types of curriculums. And we're going to talk about that just briefly today. But I really want to say this, because a large majority of homeschooling moms that I've met, the reason that they are homeschooling is not necessarily because of the academics.
Right.
Now, academics are important, for sure. We have a lot of smart folks that are
looking at one.
alive and well, but we have a lot of smart folks that aren't doing well in life. They don't know how to become good husbands. They don't understand how the home should function, because a lot of times they spend the majority of their childhood away from home. So when it comes to translating those leadership skills really into the home, we see a lot of division. So again, a lot of divorce, a lot of just the home life is missing and lacking because there's so much focus on academics. And don't get me wrong, I understand academics. I have my master's. I get it. But again, the large majority of people that I've met aren't homeschooling because they want to teach their kids academics.
It's almost like character trumps academics every time. So if you're at the table doing math, and there's, and this is a constant thing, there's some friction and frustration. It's like you need to, you can pause. You can shut the math book and focus on the attitude and the character in a loving way.
Sure.
And try to get to the root of the problem.
Right.
I mean, I had that issue with one of mine, with math, actually. And his frustration, I finally realized, was math wasn't coming as easy for him as I thought it was.
Oh.
And so his frustration was actually because of that.
I see.
But I'm taking it as 100% attitude and just not wanting to do the work. And so
having to get to that deeper root.
Yeah, trying to get to the deeper root. But you're right. Character's a big reason why most of us, or a lot of us, homeschool.
Right.
So we want to pour into our children, what type of person do we want them to be?
Right.
I want them to love learning when they're done with school.
Sure.
I want them to know God. I want them to, I want them to see me walk through life. If they can learn to forgive others and ask for forgiveness by watching me do that for them, both ways.
Right.
If they can learn to lean on God by seeing me lean on God.
Sure.
If they can learn to give grace by watching me give grace to them, and they learn to give grace to me, that's huge.
It is huge.
Because learning is never over. It's not over when you graduate high school.
So
I
true.
Hope. So that's not, academics are great, like you said. We want them to excel. Some are going to be, that's going to be one of their passions or, talents or strengths, so to speak, academics, but not all of them.
Yep.
So.
I remember, and again, as a homeschooling mom, there's many times in which we can, you keep moving forward and you're hoping that your child is getting what they need, and they have to take evaluations. But I remember no moment has made me more proud than watching my sons respond to people in certain situations. It has nothing to do with academics, and the most proudest moments have had nothing to do with academics.
Right.
It's had to do with their response to life.
Right.
The way that they may treat someone, or their keenness in seeing someone who may be in need and them wanting to do something about it. Their reaction to, or even communicating their feelings and being able to say, this is how I feel, and this is where I want to move. So to me, those have been some of the most treasured moments of my mothering or in homeschooling, is seeing the character building.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. It's so
that is what, what's what we're doing as parents.
Yeah.
So
what would you say to a mom who may be a little overwhelmed at this point? She's a homeschooling mom. Yeah. She's just completely overwhelmed. She's at her wit's end, and she's like, I'm logging in today.
I say, find your spouse.
Right.
And have them watch the kids for a weekend and go away.
That's what, true,
you do need to do that.
Yeah.
You do need to get away sometimes, and that sounds like an easy answer, but you really need to find time for yourself, by yourself. Some of us require more of that than others.
Sure.
I actually probably require more alone time than an average person.
Mm-hmm. I think I do too.
Yeah, so, but, everybody needs it. So I don't care if you're a number 10 on the extrovert scale, you still need that time alone. Yes. And getting out with girlfriends is good too, but you also need to get time alone so you can collect your thoughts, remember why you're doing this, make another plan about how you're going to work with the issues that are causing you to be burdened and overwhelmed. It's not easy. I'm not going to say it's always easy. It's rewarding. But nothing rewarding is easy, so...
Oh, that's so true. Nothing rewarding is easy.
Sorry.
It's so true. And it's always a delayed gratification.
It is.
The most rewarding things take time. Yes. They take energy and effort. In the moment, it does not feel good. But in the end, it's so rewarding.
And through it all, God is growing you. I know personally, I know God grew me more than he probably grew my children during homeschooling years.
Wow.
Because you come face to face with things in your children that you don't like are usually what you see in yourself that you don't like, whether it's, I don't know, laziness sometimes or procrastination. Exactly. And a lot of times the things that we berate our children about are the same things we see in ourselves, and so it's really just trying to be in tune to those kind of things, so that you realize it's not them. It's just life. And it's all of us, and you're trying to get them to realize, you know what, you procrastinate, I've been there, or I do too, whatever it is, and say, how can we make a plan to get you to not procrastinate.
Right.
Life can be better this way, and just kind of talk it through without flying off the handle. And it's hard. I know it is, because a lot of times we take, when we procrastinate or we're lazy or our shortcomings, we didn't do enough planning, we forgot something. We'll take that feeling, and we will transfer
That
it
is
onto
so
our children.
good. It's blame shifting.
Oh, we will do
Shifting
it,
that blame.
and we will yell at our kids,
or the spouse,
make
or
them right.
whoever will listen,
make them feel bad, and really we're mad at ourselves.
Right.
So yeah.
Oh, that's so.
There's so
good.
much that takes place when you're homeschooling. So
it's true.
It is character building for yourself.
It is so true.
At the same time.
That's so good. So the woman who may be again logged in, and you're kind of at your wits' end trying to figure it out. I heard Trisha say these things. Number one, be patient with yourself. Mm-hmm. And I need for you to understand what is it that what is a lesson in it for you. And again, for us, we never intended on this. It was really strict obedience. God said do it, and we said yes. And it wasn't perfect. In fact, I moved from my corporate position and
big changes. Yeah, big changes.
But we made changes in our lifestyle. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not at that time, no shopping all the time, you know. So things changed. I kept my same car from high school, which I still have in my garage.
That's awesome.
And so people may look and say, how are you doing it? Well, it's a lifestyle shift. It's not going after certain things because you want to make sure that your priorities are your priorities and that you can focus on what is most important. Right. And this season is going to change. Again, it's this long.
It's a season.
It's this long.
Yeah. I heard you say something on another webinar that you did about, you know, get your house in order first.
Right.
And it's true. I mean, there's a lot we can do out there. There's a lot of hobbies, and I'm all for having our own interests, but we do need to take the time to get our family in order first, so that once it starts running smoothly,
then
it is easier for you to add other things into your life. But if you're going to choose to homeschool, I mean, that really does take priority in your life for a little while, at least until you get it going, until you figure out how each child learns best, what kind of curriculum do I use, what kind of, you know, homeschooling do we want, and then you can start adding things back into your life.
Yes,
and
bit by bit.
I'm hoping this makes sense, and it doesn't mean like do nothing else but homeschool. But no,
we're gonna talk about that too. No, let's just talk about it now, because there are some moms again that may be overwhelmed with homeschooling, and over here, babes. Thank you. And so they may be overwhelmed with homeschooling, and it's because everything about their life is homeschooling.
Right.
And so they're so consumed and so engrossed. And so we have one on one extreme who's so engrossed and almost living vicariously through their children to make them robotic and perfect little beings, which clearly they're not.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Sorry.
And then we have on the opposite extreme those who may be stressed out, and so they feel paralyzed and they're really not doing enough. And so there is a happy medium.
There is a happy medium, and you really know who you are.
That's
so
good.
I mean, you really do deep down inside know if you're the one that's not doing enough and you're just being lazy, and you know if you're the one who is overly engrossed in your homeschooling and that you aren't doing anything outside of homeschooling. Because it is important that you know what it is. I love to read. I love to hike. Those are like, if I could do anything, those are the two things I would probably pick. I don't love to cook, but guess what? I have to cook every day. So, and that's okay. My husband doesn't love to cook either, or we would change that. But yeah, you want to make sure you still remember what you love and that you're able to fit that in, because that gives you energy when you're learning. That's like I said, we're talking about the strengths finders. When you are living in your strengths, that gives you energy to deal with your weaknesses. Because you can't ignore all your weaknesses. You need to work on them, you know, some of them. But to have the energy to do that comes from living in your strengths and living in your what you love, your passions. And that feeds you for those times that are hard.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So don't spend all of your time,
and don't think I knew all this.
I read this.
I have not lived all this perfectly.
But you've lived quite a bit, and that's why you're here.
Yes.
To pour back. And so, ladies, again, if you find yourself overwhelmed, making time for you is what I heard Trisha say. In addition to that, making sure you do something that you love every single day. She talked about just having that quiet time and alone time. And then also not being so engrossed that you end up really hating the journey, or even loving it at the expense of your spouse, at the expense of just everything else. Your kids are just your world, and so there is a balance.
Yeah, there is, because I've watched, and I hate to even bring it up, but I want you to know I've watched couples who have homeschooled for 10, 15, 20 years end up divorced at the end of it, because focusing on their relationship wasn't there. That focus was not there, and they did not prioritize their marriage above homeschooling their children.
And so anything can become an idol, honestly.
Right.
And
that's true.
As good of a thing as it is, and as much as I believe in the home and family, we can't make it bigger or greater than our worship to God.
Right. Absolutely.
Period.
Yeah.
And that's with anything.
Absolutely. It would be so easy to make a perfect family your idol. And on Facebook, we get to see lots of perfect families.
That's so true.
I mean, my family looks kind of perfect on Facebook. I mean, it does, but I mean, it's not. But I mean, you know, what else am I going to post, right?
Right.
I don't want to bore you with, and plus I like to use it as memories. I like to remember those good times. But you have to know, as you're looking at people's pictures of their families, you know they're not perfect. No. Don't compare. Comparison is like the thief of joy. It just robs you. And homeschooling moms, oh my goodness, when we first started and we formed a little co-op with some families in our hometown,
a community.
right? A little community, and it was just moms. We decided every year how we were going to run our co-op. Or we just going to do field trips or classes, or, you know, it was just, you know, 6-7 families. But we can meet now with kids in college and talk about how we felt back then, and we were all comparing, and we were all intimidated. Oh, they're doing Latin. Oh, you know, we're not. Oh my goodness, their kid knows violin. Oh, you know, and you start to compare yourself, and there's a point at which yes, it's great to get inspiration,
that's
from
different.
people, and that's different, and it's sometimes hard to tell, except inside you can tell,
right?
You know, it's like, you know, so you can't afford violin lessons. Okay, then, you know, play classical music in the house and teach the kids who they are. I mean, there's lots of other things to do. You can't do it all. And sometimes you go to a homeschool convention, it's overwhelming. There's 1,500 booths of curriculum and ideas, and you can't do it all. Right. And so...
so important. It really segues for me, again, back to that first point, which is figure out what your vision is for your family. And you guys need to rock that, right? Yeah. Not allowing everybody else's vision or in their division, you know, whatever that is, let that be theirs. But you really have to figure out then what is for me, and I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna do it well. I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna, you know, live in the moment, and I'm not gonna do it scared. I'm not gonna be afraid. I'm just gonna take all the information I know, continue to learn and grow, and then I'm gonna have. For me in particular, Mr. Ennius, I know that I want for my kids when they finish, I want them to turn around, Trisha, and smile at their childhood. Right. I think a lot of adults have to look back and with regret and with tears. So I just think it's important that we really are. Yes.
I mean, I loved what you said. Do it well. Figure out what it is you're going to do and do it well. Right. Don't do too much. Don't try to do too much. Right. But what you do it well. Do it well, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So can you talk just a little bit about those who may be figuring out, okay, I want to do this homeschooling thing. I really feel compelled to do it. I have no idea where to start. Yes. What would you say to them?
First of all, if you have the desire to do it and you feel called to do it, you can do it. So it is not impossible for anybody out there to do it if you want to. And really one of the first things, and this is just nuts and bolts here, would be to decide if you're going to homeschool under your county or if you're going to homeschool under an umbrella school. Right. And basically an umbrella school is also called a 600 school, or sometimes we call it a covering or a cover school because they, you know, an umbrella, and it kind of covers you. It's actually more like a private school for homeschoolers. Right. An umbrella school. We've done both. We've homeschooled under the county for our older boys until about middle school, and then we homeschooled with a pretty large umbrella school here in town, and they played soccer with them, and they were able to play against other private school teams. And
can you talk about the benefits of both?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's cost involved with umbrella schools,
right? So you're paying tuition,
and it can range from a very high, even among umbrella schools. There's a big difference. There's a lot of varieties of umbrella schools. Some cost a lot, some don't cost a lot, and they just keep your records. But you are required by them to turn in reports let them know what curriculum you're using. So they hold you accountable. And that would be one of the benefits. It can also be a downfall because you don't want to be late with your monthly, turning in your monthly report and, things like that. But they also help you with graduation requirements and things like that. You can also just homeschool under your county, and you file a letter of intent with your county, and then you keep a portfolio, and you submit an evaluation at the end of the year, and you just preserve your records for a certain number of years.
Right.
And that is, homeschooling. And when they count numbers sometimes for homeschooling, some states include umbrella school students and some don't. Some count them as private school students. So when you're actually reading numbers of how many people homeschool, it's actually quite more than what is counted, because a lot of umbrella schools aren't counted.
Right.
But we've done both. There's pros and cons to both, financially, or if you want to be accountable to somebody, if you feel like you need help during maybe the high school years because it's your first time to have a high schooler. It depends. If you know other people who are doing it who can give you that advice or point you in the right direction. Some umbrella schools offer classes, so you could take science in high school or writing classes. But if you look around your community, you'll also find just moms and dads out there that are offering science classes and writing classes.
Right.
So, and you can take those classes while you're homeschooling under the county.
Right.
So
many
there's
different
no
options.
right way. Yeah.
Right.
It's like,
right.
but that's your main choice when you first start out. Do you want to homeschool under your county, or do you want to go with an umbrella school?
Or umbrella. Sure.
So from what I understand, that's really, you have to choose between
Either
one
way.
of those. So,
Sure.
And then you just, work on what kind of curriculum, what kind of approach do you want. There's traditional, there's classical, there's unit studies, there's living books, there's what people call unschooling.
Right.
And just research all those and see what they're like, and try a few out. You don't have to, just because you start with one doesn't mean you have to keep with that one. So you can try out different ones. And then there's also co-ops. And whether you're in an umbrella school or under the county, you can join co-ops, and that's just families that have gotten together and formed co-ops, and some can offer classes, some actually are just for field trips, but they vary. And depending where you live, you might be overwhelmed with the amount of choices.
Right.
I know where we live in Central Florida,
there's a lot of options.
There's a lot of options, but I've had people move here from other states, and they're just shocked at the options we have because they had none, or they felt like they had none.
Right.
So.
And so I must say this, when Trisha started homeschooling, or when you started homeschooling, she was kind of like a pioneer. Like, she didn't know.
The 80s people were the pioneers.
They were the pioneers.
I was in the 90s.
She was in the 90s, but still, it was like, it was unheard of, just this homeschooling concept, which is so interesting because over the last, I want to say 50 years from what I've read, I mean, everybody was schooled at home. Back in the day, there really was one room schoolhouse. Everybody was in one place, and that's just how we learned. You grew up, it is a family environment, and then it changed when public school systems started really picking up speed. I want to show this book to you. It's called I Carved the Angel Out of the Marble. And for those of you who just maybe heard what Trisha said and you're just like, what? This book, you're good. It's a different world. But this book will really help to give you clarity as well. This is another book too, another homeschooling mom just gave me. It's called The First Year of Homeschooling Your Child. And so this will be another option for those of you who are looking and trying to figure out what in the world do I do and where do I start. But for sure, when we decided, my husband and I decided to homeschool, this was a book that made the final decision, helped me to make that final decision. It changed my life. It talked about what, just as parents, what that looks like, having a vision and understanding what homeschooling does in general. So again, if you're in the valley of decision and you're trying to figure it out, this book will change your life. It is phenomenal. Even if you're not considering homeschooling and you just happen to be logged in for parenting in general, you need to read these books. They will literally change your concept, and they'll help you to understand the importance of you being mom and the importance of your husband, if you're married, being the father, and what that looks like and how beautiful the creation, the design of it is. Yeah. Anyway, it'll really help to inspire you.
Yeah, and when you think about, when I look back and I think about the pros for homeschooling, it's like, they're not the academic. My kids could have gotten, like you said earlier, they could have gotten a better academic education. I am positive. I mean, but at what expense? Right. You know, and so, and when I look back and I think they've learned how to learn, because when they're in a chemistry class in college, both of my older boys, separate from each other, have YouTube videos of other professors teaching the same concepts because they didn't understand the way their professor taught. Right.
So I was like, think critically.
Wow. I mean, I didn't grow up in that whole generation of, you know, the computer and using YouTube, but if they can't figure it out from what their professor taught them, they will YouTube the information and learn it on their own so that they're still ready for class. Right. And so I think, you know, one of the pros for us was our kids are learning and have learned how to learn and how to have a good work ethic, because there's a lot of distractions, but they were able to help make them focus a little more at home than maybe they would even in a classroom. Right. And then relationship. Yes. I would not trade the time I had with my kids at all for anything. The bad days, the good days. Yeah. By homeschooling, I've been able to give them more of my best. They still get some of my worst. Yes, but they get a lot more of my best. A lot more
of your best. We talked about that the other day. Yeah. That was so powerful. Listen to this again, you all. If you could just repeat that, Trisha, it's so powerful. So one more time.
By homeschooling, which is really just spending more time with your kids, they are able to get more of my best. They still get some of my worst, but they get more of my best. If I was rushing them out every morning and rushing them home, and I get frustrated like that, like rushing like that, and so I don't know, I just really feel like the more time I'm with them and the more I've let God work on my character, they have definitely gotten more of my best than they would have gotten if we hadn't homeschooled.
That's so good.
So,
and I just have to say this again, and then we're going to entertain questions, but again, I have to make the point that if your situation or your scenario may not be perfect, neither is ours. Right. Your income level may not be at par. You know, you're going to have to, and it will require a sacrifice of some sort. But if you are being compelled and you know that is what you have been told to do, I say just simply be obedient and learn as much as you can so that you can transition them well, and so that sometimes our plans make sense to us on the level that we're on, but God's plans are so much grandioser or so much grander than what we can ever imagine. And so you may understand where you are at one point, but God sees the big picture. Right. And I'll just say this, and then again, we'll entertain questions. I remember when we initially decided to homeschool, and I didn't know how we were going to do it. I was just like, baby, this is what I think we should do. And it was a huge leap of faith. And everything that we've ever done that has been anything worthwhile has been a leap of faith. And so we did. We made that shift, and we made a lifestyle change so that we can make sure we were who we needed to be to our boys. And years later, my husband and I travel quite a bit. And we speak. We're public speakers. And we travel here internationally. And that's what God has called us to do. That's a part of our purpose. Mm-hmm. And our boys come with us. Mm-hmm. And had we not obeyed, see, back then I had an idea, but I really didn't know where we would be. But had I not obeyed, I would have missed out on some of the best moments of us traveling together and having that time, because we can't travel and leave them here. And I don't want my husband going without me. So all of us go, so that we can enjoy that time together. And I promise you, those moments of just being together have been some of the most memorable moments of our lives.
They are.
And so my point is simply this: if you have heard that call, simply obey. Simply obey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes,
so
good.
Let's entertain questions. Again, we wanted to make sure that I know that, again, we're on the broadcast now, but anybody who has questions either on those live feeds, we would love to answer them. Maybe you're just trying to figure something out, or maybe let us know what resonated with you today so that we can make sure that other women also know what you have to say. Anybody? Thank you for the hearts.
I do remember one question someone had sent you about, how do I keep my child focused on schoolwork?
Sure.
And that kind of comes from knowing your kids too. But I remember with one of our boys, I would make him go ride his bike every morning before he started school, because he needed to get out. You do it with yours too.
We do every morning.
Some kids need to get that energy out before they can sit down and spend an hour doing math. Right. You can also, for one of our kids, we built, or we just used those science boards for science fairs,
Right,
and
that
just to
trifles.
help kind of block out everything else that's going around them so they could focus. Rewards, okay, at 1 o'clock we're going to go to the park. We're going to meet so-and-so at the park, but we need to finish our work. And, just kind of working through. Some things work, some things won't. But just goodness, we have internet. We can search.
Right, we can figure it out.
But yeah, keeping your kid focused can be a big deal. Setting time limits. We're only going to do 45 minutes of math, 15-minute break. But then we're coming back at this time. But then make sure you're holding yourself accountable,
right?
Instead of letting 2 hours go by, and then it doesn't work,
right?
So that's one, some ways keeping your kids focused.
That's great
while they're at home. So
such great advice.
Oh, turning off cell phones and TV screens.
Yes.
Sorry.
Right.
Yours too, Mom. If you're gonna answer the phone when you're in the middle of explaining math, it's like
you're gonna lose them.
So you really need to set some boundaries when it comes to that, and figure out what works. So
good. Well, listen, I hope that you all were inspired today, that you heard something that will really take you to another level of life, and that your family, these few years that you've been granted to be their mom and to be really an example of God's amazing love and the way that he nurtures us and cares for us and loves us, that you will maximize this time and this season with one another. I do see a question here. So we'll answer this question. If you would, can you read that, sir? Because I can't see it.
I was going to say, your eyesight's amazing. I can't read it. Don't look.
I've been advised that kindergarten should be very simple. What was your...
I agree.
I believe in simple. Yes, simple kindergarten. I believe in developmental kindergarten as opposed to academic kindergarten. So, and that even went for preschool. We actually did enroll our kids in a preschool because we hadn't decided to homeschool at that time. And some homeschool parents will, still use preschool. I have friends who have 7 kids. They're like, preschool twice a week is great.
Right.
But we purposely chose a developmental preschool as opposed to an academic preschool. Hands-on, counting, weighing beans, growing a bean, just fun. If they hate kindergarten, then we're doing something wrong.
Right.
You can learn a lot without frustrating a kindergartner. And let me tell you, some kids are going to learn to read quickly. Some, it's going to take you longer than the average person. And it's hard when you haven't raised a lot of kids already and you haven't seen it. And I had one I didn't even have to teach to read. I've had one who was 2 or 3 years behind reading level until probably 6th grade. But I'm telling you what, if he had been in a classroom, I really think he would have hated reading, and he is my reader.
Wow.
He classic. He loves to read now. So what if he didn't read at his grade level until 6th or 7th grade? I kept thinking if he just keeps improving, by the time he reaches high school, he'll be at a,
Right.
So, it's just kind of working with them, but absolutely kindergarten, developmental, fun. Yes, learn to hold a pencil. If they can learn to write their name, learn the letter sounds, but the best you can, make it fun.
Yes. They should be enjoying.
Your next question is, what do you do about evaluations?
Okay, so if you're homeschooling under your county, then you do need to submit an evaluation, at least here in Florida. But most of us know people who are either public school teachers, and if you do, most of them are more than willing to look at your child's portfolio and sign off on your evaluation. That's the easiest way to do an evaluation. You can also do standardized tests, and a lot of private schools offer it. You could do it through your state if you want also, or different homeschool communities offer standardized tests. So you can do that. I don't do that until probably 3rd or 4th grade, but I do like having it just to see improvement and to see where my kids are the strongest, where they are the weakest, and just play off of that, trying not to let it affect us in a negative or even a too positive of a way, like not making the great results too great, not making the poor results, so just trying to balance that out. But absolutely, any school teacher, actually I said public school, but any Florida state school teacher, if you're in Florida, that's a certified teacher, can do your evaluation for you.
And an evaluation is simply at the end of your school year or even at the beginning of the next school year, right before, you would submit it to the county. So they would send you an evaluation form, you get it completed by that teacher, and you send it back in.
And the teacher is only saying this child has improved and is ready to move on. I mean, it's, So, go ahead. Do you have another question?
So your next question is, what test is the best?
Which test
is the best?
Oh. So standardized?
Like if you want like a standardized test, I don't know. I'm really honestly only familiar with, well, they've gotten rid of the FCAT, which I only did that 1 year to my poor child. So it's just hard to go from a homeschooling and then go into the public school classroom and take a test that was geared toward
a public school student.
And he, you know, he did okay. He did fine, but I can't imagine how nervous he was as a third grader, and I did that to him. You know, so he was the oldest, guinea pig. So other than that, I've only used the SAT. They have grade level testing that private schools or private homeschool organizations or umbrella schools offer, and so I've used that one. But other than that, I really don't know what to compare them to. So.
So there's so many options, and of course you can go online and research and see. And some of you may be wondering, well, if I do homeschool, then, you know, how does my kid get into college? And, but I've seen reports and I've read reports on how well homeschoolers do in college, simply because a lot of them have been taught to seek out information and how to think critically and how to form their own opinions. And so they're able to do that well. And those are the skills, the underlying skill set that a lot of adults need in order to do well in life in general. So
they do seem to do very well in college at a higher percentage than students who weren't homeschooled. But
I think we have one more question, Mr. Ennius. Let's entertain this last question, ladies, and then we're going to close out for today. Let's see here. Yes?
That's the last question.
That was the last question. Beautiful. Well, listen, I want to thank all of you for joining in today. I really hope that you heard something or that you were inspired at the heart level. Just hearing from us. It's not easy. It's not perfect. And it's okay. Not easy. It's not perfect. And it's okay. You just want to make sure that you get as much information as you can. And the second thing I would say is get in a community so that you're not doing it by yourself. That's in anything that you have in life. Find a community of people who literally will help to keep you inspired, to maintain your inspiration. You can start out really strong, and then along the way, it just fizzles. We know how that feels. So make sure that you stay connected. And that's why, again, I wanted Trisha here, because she's a part of my community. And I promise you that whenever I feel down, I call Trisha. Or whenever I pick up a book.
People are going to be calling you, because it doesn't take long. 4 or 5 years of homeschooling, and people think you're very experienced.
And you do learn a lot quickly.
You do learn a lot. So,
you do.
Absolutely.
So anyway,
thank you.
Thank you all so much. I want to just close out by giving Trisha one of my books. It's called The Best Year Yet, and it is a woman's guide to designing a life that she'll love.
I will love this book.
And she loves to read.
I do love to read, so I will actually showcase this on my Instagram account, which is all books usually, but yes.
And let me know your thoughts. Yeah, but I hope that it'll inspire you as you have inspired all of us today. And so on your journeys, ladies, we would love to hear from you. If you want more information from Trisha, you're like, how can I get in contact with her? Believe me, she's a well of wisdom. Trisha, we can find you on YouTube.
You can search me on YouTube, or you can put in tinyurl.com// Trisha Boris.
And that's TRICIA BORES.
All right.
So if you want her information or her name, simply you can go on my page or inbox me, and I'll be sure to get that over to you. Again, my name is Brooke Marie Ennius. Thank you so much for joining us today. Trisha, thank you for being
Brooke.
here.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. And I pray that you all will have just an incredible journey moving forward in your motherhood and your womanhood, and that you will enjoy some of your best years yet. And as a result of that your kids will also know how to relax and enjoy life to the full. God bless you.
All right.
Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye. Beautiful.
Okay. Sorry.